Thanks for joining me to look at some more heavy metal and hard rock books. I'm gonna look at another 10 today, and I'm gonna start off with an amazing one. This is Soul on Fire, The Life and Music of Peter Steele by Jeff Wagner. Of course, Peter Steele, the sadly departed frontman from Type O Negative, and Jeff Wagner, who has written a number of metal books and was the editor of Metal Maniacs way back in the day. And this copy, this book went out of print for a while. It was worth a bit of money for a bit, but from what I understand, you can get it now, so go get it. I had an early copy, signed by the author, and I love this book. I think I'm going to read it again this fall. It's about 300 pages, lots of pictures, lots of details. I think it's done without the family's involvement, but I still trust this to be a very accurate and in-depth book. What else came with this book was this cool green Type O Negative wristband. And I'll just tell you a quick story. Type O Negative and Halloween, they come in hand to me. So whenever my wife and I are up late watching scary movies or whatever, I'm always falling asleep. And during that time of year, sometimes I'll just kind of throw that on and I'll just kind of remind myself, like, nope, it's Halloween, stay up, enjoy it. But anyways, Soul on Fire. Next up, Running with the Devil, a backstage pass to the wild times, loud rock, and the down and dirty truth behind the making of Van Halen. This is by Noel E. Monk, who was the manager of Van Halen from 1978 to 1985. So during those prime years of Van Halen, this was their manager. I learned a lot about everyone involved, and I've read a whole bunch of Van Halen books, and this might be the most entertaining one. A couple people recommended the David Lee Roth books to me. I don't know much about them, actually. I feel like they might not even talk that much about Van Halen, but I'll probably get to them one day. Hardcore, Life on My Own by Harley Flanagan, who is, or was, the frontman of the Cro-Mags. Actually, he has the Cro-Mags name now, doesn't he? I think so. I think they just put out an album, or an EP or something. But yeah, this was a Feral House book. They put out a bunch of good stuff. This is, a lot of juicy material in here, very entertaining. Harley sounds like kind of a crazy guy, interesting guy for sure. Talks quite a bit about the bad feelings with the other old members of the Cro-Mags. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, Harley, John Joseph over there, like they all seem like cool guys to me. But this book, yeah, kind of reminds me of the Roger Muir book I looked at in another video. What does it say? This book is the punch in the face you want and need by Anthony Bourdain. Yeah, you know what? I always knew of him as a big personality in the hardcore scene. Didn't know a whole lot about his life, and I learned all about it here. Damn the Machine by David E. Gelke. The story of Noise Records. So if you didn't know, Noise were a German record label. The big names involved were predominantly, I'd say, Halloween, Celtic Frost, Creator, Gamma Ray, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Noise Records are around anymore. But it was kind of interesting because a lot of people complained about Noise Records while on or after departing. But the record label owner here, he tells his side of the story, and who knows what's I don't know a lot about the record industry, but it just I thought it was a very interesting book and taught me a lot about the European record industry and metal scene. And David Gelke, I think he's written a number of other metal books. I might have read a couple, I can't really recall, but I think he did the recent Paradise Lost book, and I gotta look more into him because I think he's done some good stuff. A Journey in Darkness, The Life and Music of a Man Called It. I looked at this at an old video that no one watched. This is It from Abruptum, Ophthalmia, Fondor, and countless other things. I couldn't believe this was a real book. I found it on Amazon, real cheap, very short too. It's like 100 pages in big letters. But yeah, he was a very interesting guy, and glad I found that. Swedish death metal, Daniel Ekeroth. Again, there's a big chunk of this book that's mostly just like a discography of the entire Swedish death metal scene up into a certain year. I think every band that made at least an official demo. And then the backstory of those involved. Touched on the Stockholm scene, the Gothenburg scene, everything in between. My Damage by Keith Morris. The story of a punk rock survivor. I think I was just on vacation and was just kind of looking for a rock book, so I bought this. Keith Morris was the singer for the Circle Jerks, Black Flag for a time, and more recently, a band called Off. And, you know, I've heard, well, I'm fairly familiar with Black Flag, but Circle Jerks and Off, I've just kind of heard a couple songs. But it was his story, and a fun book. Confessions of a Heretic by Adam Nergal-Darsky. Of course, the frontman of Behemoth. Haven't read this in many years, so, and I've never been a big Behemoth fan. No disrespect. You know, solid band, just not something that I listen to. So it seems that the format of this book is interviews. So it's different subjects, or vague subjects broken down by chapter, where someone is interviewing Nergal, and it's all here for us to see. And he's an interesting guy. He's got strong opinions and stands up for what he believes, I think, so I'll give him that. And yeah, Behemoth. I think the only album I have is A Satanist. That's it. Okay, we're gonna close with a couple oddball ones. This is A Long, Slow Screw by Eugene S. Robinson. This is not a book about metal or rock. It's a fiction work, but it's done by Eugene Robinson, the singer of Oxbow, guest vocalist with many other people, and a bit of a MMA personality. But I'm a big fan of Oxbow, and I believe this was his one novel. And I did read it once, but we're talking when it first came out, almost 15 years ago, and I think I was definitely guilty of drinking and reading this. So it's kind of like a gangster story, definitely a New York, grimy crime novel. And I remember enjoying it, but I'm definitely putting this aside, and when I get a chance, I'm going to read it again. And finally, a book you probably won't find, but this is called Going Underground, A Brief History of Punk Rock in Small Town Canada. So this is a self-published book by a guy that I used to work with. And he just told me, you know, he's into rock music and photography, and he wrote a book, and he was a nice guy, so I said, please sell me a copy, and here it is. So he grew up in Northern Ontario, so many hours from where I live, but in the same province. Town I've never like I've never been that far north, and I've lived here my whole life. And there is a intro and an outro with some stories and some background information, but it's generally more so a book of photography of early Canadian punk rock. And glad to have it. And that's it. Thanks for watching.